Hey guys, this is Three Nights, and I'm just showing you the in-depth version of my new song with 4LGen called Inspire. A little bit of disclaimers before I go into it. This is not a tutorial for anyone who's kind of a beginner at FL Studio Mobile, because I'm going to be kind of covering a lot of things that aren't that simple. And if you want to listen to the full song, which I suggest you do before this, I'll send a link to that in the description below. So I'm not going to be showing the full song here, just little clips and parts to show you how it sounds. So, alright, as you can see, I think this went down to, this one went down to like 50 something. Yeah, 54, and then there's all these filters. So, to start it off, you hear, let's get the volume up. You hear this. So the way that was made is two Mellotrons. So the first one is with just a filter, and I think that filter was just to give it a little deep, yeah, right there. So it's halfway just to give it a little bit of deep stuff. By the way, I kept the shared and the master the same. Let's just keep that note. Alright, anyways. And the second Mellotron kind of gives it more character. So there's a filter, an EQ, and another filter. The difference between the filters here is that one of them is halfway, but the other one, I think, is put on bandpass. Pretty sure. Actually, I'm not going to check it. I know that. And then the EQ is sided towards bass, so you hear more of the bass. When you play those two together, though, it only sounded like this to me. So when you hear that little character part in it, that's actually the morphine string ensembles. So there's number 1 and number 2. It's the exact same effects, except 2 is a little bit louder. And these effects also, I guess, are shared on the Mellotron. So when you put it together, it sounds like this. Alright, so the next part of it that you'll hear is the little bass line that kicks in. And that bass line is bass attack. And the chords look like as follows. Like that. So each of them are a fourth note. I don't know if it's written in anything. I kind of just did it until it worked. So, okay. That's that. And that sounds like this. Alright, so then next up, you start hearing the little intro beat, which is this. I like to solo out my instruments for the effects, just so that they don't cross over. So if you see a lot of bars, it's not that those are actually all new instruments. It's more of that, it just helps me kind of like find things better. So this is, oops. So let me just highlight that. Let me zoom in actually, here. Make it easier. So those are the chords for that, and it sounds like this. And the filter for that would be this right here. I started it halfway because when you started it at the bottom of it, you couldn't hear it. So it starts halfway, and then at the very end, it'll get to the actual sound it's supposed to be. But not really, because when I made the next part of it, it's these three right here. So it's one Groove Machine Talk, which sounds like this with the EQ up on, I forget, it's on treble, middle, like that. So it'll be like that, and it's the exact same chords as the SAR cutting lead, and it'll sound like this. And that's just to give it character again. So you don't actually like hear that yo whatever noise, but in the song it'll sound like it has a little bit of a, I don't know how to describe it. Here, this is what it would sound like normally. And then with the Groove Machine Talk, so it just kind of blends in almost. Alright, so then the next part is the same Mellotron you had up here, except this time it has no effects. It's the same chords, it'll stay down here. The morphine strings were actually done by 4LGen. I can't really describe them super well. I'll just show you the actual chords for it. I believe they're fourth notes, all of them. Should be. Oh, they're eighth. There you go. More you know. I never looked into that. So then you have the bass attack. So the interesting thing here is it's the same instrument. I actually didn't create a separate panel for it, but the volume is different. So it remains the same, but in the beginning it's blue, which means it's a lower volume. I don't know which one specifically. I don't feel like checking it, sorry. So that'll stay the same, and then as it progressively gets over here, that part's slightly louder. I think it caps at 108, something around there. That's the max. So, alright, let me go back. And then the morphine strings are the exact same from here. I just put them here, and they have no effect compared to they had an EQ and a filter to make them sound a different way. I don't think we have any kicks yet. No. So then that part of the song will play. Should sound like this all together. Quick little thing I forgot to cover. This morphine orbit lead is the exact same note throughout this whole song. It goes the entire way. And the reason behind that is that so that when you listen to the song, it doesn't feel like you're listening to nothing. There's always some sort of background noise at every part of it. I always have that in every song. I just keep it because I like it. A quick little thing I also forgot because there's a lot of scrolling down to do is this is one of my favorite effects here is FX Avicii. I got this through someone's Dropbox a while ago. I don't know how. I'll probably send a link to that in the link below too because it's such a useful tool. So basically that just builds up, but I put so much treble on it you don't hear it. You hear that also in some other songs like Daybreak. That one's more prevalent. But basically the EQ is probably going to be all on treble. Yeah, like that. And I think the filter is also on... No, it's on low pass. It's in the middle. Just so that it's not as loud. Okay. So we go through here. It's going to be the same sounds. And then... Oops. Fix that. Then the kicks are progressive. I think kick A, both. They should be. Oops. Okay, yeah. Damn it. So just to check, yeah, they're kick A. Another note, sorry if you realize that was weird for half a second. I put it on resolution 132 so that when the bass drops you get more kicks in it. That'll be over here where all of them are like that. This is what it would normally look like on 1/16th, but if you bring it to 132, it goes faster. I like to keep everything at 1/16 usually, but until I'm with a final edit of a song, I'll add the 132 just so that it's easier to look at as a 1/16. And then when you put in the 132, then it sounds like what it's supposed to. Right here, yeah, there's a line of something. I think that's the same kick. No, it's kick B. And I think that's at a lower... No, it's on max volume. And then under here is a special kick I downloaded also from a sample pack a while ago, which sounds like this. If you want that, I'll also link that below. So then the next interesting part of the song, after the bass drop... So... that's a bunch of mini synth default presets. I learned this from 4LGen that it kind of gives like a better background sound than the Morphine Orbit lead, but it gives it kind of a grittier sound. I personally liked the gritty sound, and I kept it there, and then in the second part of the second drop, you'll hear it play throughout. So what I did here was, I kept it the same as it is for the drop in this one line, but then I also created two separate lines so that it sounded a specific way. So for this line, there's nothing in it. There's no special effects, but you just leave the effects on. This one is the same, but it's just a lower volume. And then this one, there's a lot of stuff going on in this one. So there's a phaser, and I put on this to it. Then for the EQ, let me scroll up. I did that. I filtered it through low pass, then a little bit past halfway, I guess, to give it a deeper voice. The reverb so that it sounds like it fills the room more. I set it on hall, high, and then as following. And then the limiter so that it isn't as loud. So, and that's also doubled. I don't know if you can see the orange. It's a little bit bad angle I have here with my camera. So, as that goes, actually, let me show you the chords for that first. So there you go. In that part of it, that's all it is. And then actually in the bottom, because there's a little part here, the way the song is set up, the little bass back part, right here, as you can see, let me move it a little bit here. One side swings to the right, the other side swings to the left. So I also created a separate one down here, an extra one, which is to both. In most of my songs, it will be both, but in this one, I noticed that he utilized it, so I just went with it. So I did that, and then that's just this note right here, and I doubled it so that it's loud like the rest of it. So when you hear that clap, that just reminded me, that's all the way down here. Somewhere. It's a little tricky to find because it's just one note. I'll zoom in more. Should be... Yeah, this is bad. Yeah, right here. Sorry, Transkit. I thought it was green for some reason. So that clap is down here with the effects of just a reverb on it. Oh, let me show you the reverb. Like that. Okay. So that clap was just oh, that was a bongo. No, oh, sorry, wrong note. That is snare 1, snare 2 together. Thought it was a clap. That was by 4L 2. Alright, so the background noise you're hearing is this. Wait. So the way this preset is set up is so when you have a bunch of fourth notes together, you can't put them next to each other. So you have to create a separate bar so that it sounds the exact same way like most fourth notes will work. I noticed that the mini synths are a little bit weirder than the normal instruments you usually play with. So that's how that goes about. And then there's the right side, left side thing going on with specific notes. For the synth that you listen to, that is the drop. So then up here are the kicks. I made this kick a little bit, oh sorry, it's tilted. I made this kick here specifically just for the drop, just so that the kick is louder. So that comes with an EQ on just the middle, make it loud. The filter is on low pass, a little bit, a quarter of the way. Compressor to make it, less, and then the limiter. I'm surprised there's a limiter on there. I forgot. I don't know what I put the limiter on necessarily. So, oh, I got limiters stuck up with phaser. Compressor is like that, which is basically everything and then not the output. If you ever mess with this and put the output will sound louder than everything else. So then this kit is done in 132, so it's kick electric and kick basic. Here is the same kick I showed you before. It's the only instrument in that little pack. Same progressive kick, and then if you scroll down a bit here, there's also this brakes kit going on, which is a kick normally. That has no effects on it. And then if you scroll down here, I also added a sub and some other stuff. So this is the sub and the 8089. Those are also downloaded from someone's Dropbox. I forgot. The 8089 comes with an EQ I put on it. So it only goes on the first one, and then I leave it for a whole note. And that's so that the sub kicks through the entire song. So you only hear that extra bump in the beginning, and that's kind of what gives it a kick after the clap. Like, it makes it really loud and noticeably louder than everything else. So it goes like this. So you can still hear that kick. Also, this FL Basic kit is that is Hat Club Basic, Ride C, Crash C. So that's so it kind of gives it a kind of like boost sound. Kind of hearing a drop, because I don't know how to replicate that exactly, but that comes with reverb, delay, and limiter. So the reverb is going to look like this. It's set on room this time with high and the following stuff. Done delay on an 8th note. I usually don't ever leave it off an 8th note or else it sounds really weird. Feedback on 100. And the limiter to make it less potent. So that'll stay the same throughout the whole drop, except for you'll hear little breaks. So in those little breaks, it's the random instruments that are, I think they're up here, yeah. So there's many different kits that this was designed in, and I'll just go through that quickly. So this electro kick has just a phaser, which is this part right here. So the phaser is what makes it go up and down. But I warn you, if you're using a phaser, that it doesn't always stay the same. In this song it happened to. Especially when you're using an instrument, it won't make the same sound all the time. So that's a clap A, snare B, hat E on electro kit. Then down here is a synthetic kit where there's the laser. It's like, well, I'll make that. So then I have the perks there so that it's not like filled with nothing, but on top of, so that it's not filled with nothing, I made a line specifically with the mini synth just to fill in for that. I think I tripled this one too. Let me zoom in on the keyboard so you can see the note specifically. Yeah, so it's that note there. Alright, and then those sounds should repeat. Yeah, they do. Alright, so then the next part that's, different per se. Let me zoom out. Is this part right here. So when I made this part, I dropped the default preset background noise. I'm talking about this part right here. So I kept a couple of the presets up there, and it's basically gonna look like this. It's gonna look something like that. These are, it's not going to look like what's right here that I'm fingering, or my finger's covered. It's going to look like the little blue parts. The blue parts is because I made them lower. And then it's the same noise that you're going here. Oh, I forgot. This is, well, it's kind of hard to approach how the drop is made because it goes back and left and right with different sounds because you can't loop it. So together, so I'll just show you one half of that drop, which is this. Okay. And then the other half, which would be this. So if you could put those two together, great. You can't, sorry. That's how the drop would go. And then this part here is just the same noise, more or less, being looped, so it'll look like that. Sounds like this. So I kept the kicks the same. I dropped this because I wanted it to be less loud. You scroll down, I think I kept the subs too. Oh, I didn't. But I kept the little crash part because you still hear that in the song. And then I have specific breaks for this actually. Oh, or do I? No, I do. Yeah, kick A. So, and that's with no anything to it. That's just effectsless. So then when you hear that explosion, it is the explosion in the miscellaneous kit. I think that's free to download from the app itself, which sounds like that. It is that note, but you kind of just play around with that keyboard to find whatever you're looking for. So then the next major part of that song, FX Avicii comes in again there. So then it's the exact same thing as the first part, except for when you hit the 53rd part, I added this to it. And that is effectsless. And I originally intended to have a filter on it, but when you put a filter on it, it just didn't give the same like crisp sound to it, and I couldn't kind of replicate it with anything else, so I just left it the same, and it kind of builds up. It sounds a little bit odd, but I think it fits overall. So that will look like that. Okay, and then when you hear the drop again, so when you hear that part right there, that's also not a filter. That is, so the way I did this one was, it's the same note I was playing before, but this line right here after the blue is times 2, times 3, then times 4, then times 4, then times 3, then times 2, then times 1. If that makes sense. So that it builds up louder, but you're not using a filter. which is kind of the technique I was using before on the drop buildup, which is right here, but it just doesn't sound as smooth as it does there, I guess. The effects to that was a delay, which would look like that. The EQ looks like that, and the filter to give it that deeper tone is like that. Then I also have another imported thing, which is a kick drop, also from a Dropbox. I'll probably put a Dropbox link because I'm noticing a lot of this is, now that I look at it again, from the Dropbox. And that sounds like this, and there's no effect to it. So then this part of the drop is exactly the same as before, with the exact same little effects going on here. Oh, I forgot this part, I guess, in the other description, so I'll just do it here. This is Electro Kit with nothing else, and it is just a bunch of hi-hats. So it's Crash C, like looking like that, and then Hat E. So then that extra noise you're hearing that's going like dun dun, that is just the same repeating note. I have to find it though. Right here, mini synth. Yeah, for this one it did repeat the sound for some reason the correct way. It is a fourth. I'll zoom in on the piano, I guess, to show you that. Oh, and it's going. Search. Yeah. So that's a fourth note right there, and that'll repeat the entire time until we get to about here, where I get rid of it. So then right here you start hearing a little bit of an extra sound, so that comes back to up here, where it's these notes up here on this one only. So it's that these are what the extra notes are gonna look like. Top of the drop. This is another part done by Forelgen, so I can't describe it in fully, but I just know that's where it is added onto. And yeah. So then the next part that sounds drastically different is when I just left the bass to be itself, or the background beat, and it ended up sounding pretty good, so I left it. So it'll go about like this. So, oh, another quick thing. The background beat here is a little bit different. You add a snare to every second. Then when you go here, you start adding these hats closed, which has nothing else on them. And then to make that little da-da-da sound, you get ride D, ride A, ride B, tom, no, not tom low, just those four, and you put it like that. This is all in 1/16. The only thing that's 132 were those top four, which are on and off, but that's how you make them. So then this part is actually just the same as the background beat you had before in the drop, except that when you get to the second part of this, I just dropped this top part right here. So when you hear that little like, and then there's a little like not sound there, but it still sounds smooth, that's because this isn't here, as you can't put them overlaying. So when I didn't have that, I also thought that sounded good, so I left it. And then there is that little kick roll again over here at the very, very end again. But that's not it. I wish it was. So down here, it's the same dirty electro you had before that drop, the second drop, and that's just going at a much lower tone. They're all doubled, or actually no, they're all tripled, except for this one's at 1. That's the last one where you have that kick roll again. And the effects on this would be a delay looking like that, and EQ looking like that, a limiter just 38%, and the filters so that it's a little bit deeper, but actually I don't know why I put it there, but yeah, it's just so that it's deeper. And that's it. So that's my little in-depth run through. Sorry if I missed something on here that you're hearing and I didn't cover. I tried to explain this as best as I can. Hopefully I'll have more of these. Tell me if you like it, if it was more in depth. Sorry if I went too fast. You can probably pause it, see what I did exactly, but I'm pretty sure I got through everything pretty good. It's also at 121 BPM.